Hi everyone and welcome back or welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a massive haul video of all the books that I've accumulated somehow within the last almost a year. The last time I did a haul video was last September, and as you can imagine I've obviously got quite a lot of books since then. There's probably about 30 books here maybe, so I'm just going to run through them all pretty quickly, tell you what they're all about, tell you if I've read them or not. To be honest, quite a lot of these have not been read, most of them. I think there's a handful that have, but yeah, we'll get to that. So without further ado, let's just get started with this video because I can tell it's going to be a long one. I have absolutely no idea what day order I got these books in, but I figured I would start with my bigger books. So these are the hardbacks that I've got and also the special edition ones I've got, so I'll show you those first because they are quite exciting. So the first book that I'll show you is Narla's World by Nicholson. My boyfriend Mac got me this for Christmas. I still haven't read it yet, but this is an autobiography written by Nicholson, who is an Instagrammer who was travelling the world by bike, and along the way he found this poor little abandoned kitten and he sort of adopted her, and I just love their Instagram page. Narla is the cutest little thing ever. I love their pictures together. She just sits in his in the front of his bike as they ride around. Narla has seen way more countries than I have and they've just got such a cute story, so this is probably going to be the cutest, sweetest read, and I should probably leave this somewhere by my bed because it feels like one of those that I probably just want to read when I want to chill. So yeah, I'll probably put this by my bed actually. I will do that after this video. The next book that I got, I'll show you what else he bought me actually. So he bought me that for Christmas, and he also bought me this book, which is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This book is the coolest book ever. It's a horror story set in a fictional IKEA type store. So I can't remember what the place is actually called that they're in, but it's about a group of employees that are there after hours and then some spooky shit starts happening. Oh, there it is, Orsk. So that's the name of the place, but this whole book is set out like an IKEA catalogue. Oh, it just looks so cool, and I'm definitely saving this for Halloween time, but it's got creepy little illustrations in there, and the back is also an IKEA catalogue as well. So I just really love how this book is laid out. So yeah, bless him, he got me this because I think I'd mentioned that I wanted to read it, but I wanted to get it physically just because of how cool it was, and he obviously listened. Also that Christmas he bought me the cutest book. He's such a good egg. He knows exactly what to buy me. He bought me this edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It is gorgeous. It is so stunning. It was designed by Mina Lima Design, and they basically worked on the graphic design for the Harry Potter films, and now that obviously that is over, they've branched out into making these beautiful books. I'll show you a little bit of what this book is like. This is the inside cover, and then it is just full of gorgeous illustrations, and there's pop-ups and everything. Look how stunning. Oh, every page just has something so cute on it. There's just tons of little drawings. There's pop-up stuff, so I've tried not to look properly through it because I want to, I know it sounds sad, but I want to save this book for when I hopefully have kids one day, be able to read it for the first time with my little kiddie winks. All of the chapters just have really beautiful art on there. And it has loads of interactive stuff as well. So for example, on this page we've got the letter that is sent to Harry going to Hogwarts. Oh my god, it's just perfect. It is the most detailed book I've ever had. They're so nicely thought out. If you are a fan of Harry Potter, definitely have a look at these because they're just amazing. And I will also show you. So that's the one that he got me for Christmas, and then it was just our anniversary last month, so he got me the second one. He's just so cute. This is basically the same, and they look so cute together when I put them next to each other. Ooh. Again, just stunning, everything about it. There's lots of illustrations in there, lots of pop-up things. So it has Dumbledore's office, and you can lift it up, and yeah, it all just pops up. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to ruin it, but oh, just gorgeous and amazing, and literally my favourite books ever that I own, my favourite present ever. So cute. These are the only 2 ones that they've actually published at the minute, but I imagine that eventually they'll bring out like the full set, and I do want to have every single one of them because they're just the best editions ever. If you're not a Harry Potter fan, they also have other books like Disney original stories, so they've got Beauty and the Beast, Pinocchio. They also have The Wizard of Oz, which I would quite like to own, and they do quite a few of those, so definitely check those out if you are into like special editions of books. And just think how a little kid would love that. That is just so cute. Okay, next book, one that I've actually bought myself. To be fair, I also bought this using a shared voucher that me and Mac had, so he kind of also bought me this too. I promise the rest of them have been with my own money. But this is Moon Witch Spider King by Marlon James, which I am currently reading. I have been reading it since like the start of June though, so it's now the 5th of August. I'm really enjoying this book, but it is one that I quite like to slowly read since it is a big chunky fantasy book. I can't just like sit down and power through it. So this is the sequel to Black Leopard Red Wolf, also by Marlon James, and I really love that book. I will try and link my review down below in one of my wrap up videos. But this edition is beautiful. It's one of the signed ones from Waterstones. It's just gorgeous. It's got these blue sprayed edges. I love the spine. It's this amazing hot pink colour with all this like green, blue, purple, and I really want to buy like the first one as well because I love that book. I got the first book from the library when I read it, and I also listened to it on audio, so I figured I would buy this and then I can also buy the first one when I get the chance. They are basically these epic fantasy stories set in a fictionalized version of a mythological Africa. And we're following a bizarre cast of characters as they set out on this quest to find this missing boy. And in the first book we're mainly following this character called Tracker, who has a really powerful sense of smell, and they recruit him to find this child because of his sense of smell. He can like smell things that people owned and find them. And then in this book we are following the exact same story all over again, but this time from the perspective of another character, Sogolon, and she is a witch who in the first book I think is really old, and at the minute we're basically following her backstory, so when she's a child and a teenager, and I am really enjoying it. It's just a bit of a slow start. The next 2 books I picked up together. I found them at a charity shop and they are a little bit battered, to be fair. But this one is Vox by Christina Doucher. I'm not usually a massive fan of hardbacks, although that Moon Witch Spider King is gorgeous. But I do quite like this one as well. This is, I think it's a dystopian book. It's about a new government where women's bank accounts are frozen, passports are taken, and 70 million women lose their jobs. Young girls are no longer taught to read or write, and every woman is limited to just 100 words a day. It's going to be a really interesting feminist dystopia, and I love a dystopian story. It actually says up here, a reimagining of The Handmaid's Tale. I really liked The Handmaid's Tale, so hopefully this one will be really good as well. The next book, I have actually tried to read this book before and I DNF'd it. I don't know why, I just couldn't really get into it, but I've kind of always been intrigued by it and I sort of want to revisit it. So I found this in a charity shop for £1.50. I think Vox was £1.50 as well. I figured I would eventually give it another go. So this is The Girl with All the Gifts by Mr Carey. This is a zombie novel, which is not normally my kind of thing, but I do really like The Walking Dead and I'm currently watching that. And this is about a girl who, I think, from what I can remember, she's in a class with a group of other kids and I think they've all been infected with like the zombie virus, but they're not full-blown zombies yet. They still have a lot of their human characteristics. So I think they teach these children in the hope that they don't go into this like full-blown zombie state. I do remember liking it, but I feel like I just got a little bit bored with it at some point. I don't know if that was just me or if it was the book, I don't know. So I've bought it again because it was cheap, so at some point I will be rereading this, but to be honest I did buy it quite a while ago and I've still not picked it up. So I might have to, I don't know, maybe do a video where I read this again alongside a few others just so that I can actually give it a fair shot. The next stack of books I have here are books that I've also bought from charity shops that are books that I've previously read before on my Kindle and I wanted to own a physical copy. Eventually one day I do want to own a physical copy of every book I've read that I loved. I read a lot of books on my Kindle and from the library and stuff, but I do want to eventually own all those books that I really liked physically, just because one day I want to have a shelf where it's full of every book that I've ever loved, and I really love like lending my books out and stuff, so I think it's just a nice idea. But obviously I don't want to be buying a ton of like new books, it feels a little bit like a waste of money, so I basically found these at the charity shop. They were super cheap and I thought I may as well get them now. So here's my little stack of these. Obviously I had to pick up Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This was my favourite book of last year. I've banged on about it hundreds of times. This is about a woman who meets a guy on a night out and it turns out to be her new boss. They hit it off, but it turns out that he's married, and then we follow this very strange like three-way relationship where our main character Louise is kind of still attracted to the guy, her boss, but then she also starts a friendship with his wife, and both relationships are very secret from each other. She doesn't let the other know that she's speaking to the other one, and she starts to suspect that her boss might be abusing his wife. So this book is fantastic. I've talked about it so many times. The ending blew my mind and I had to own it. The next one, I picked this one up pretty recently, and this is The Kind Worth Killing by Swanson. I read this one quite a few years ago on my Kindle and I really loved it. It's a very fast-paced thriller. We're following these two characters, Ted and Lily. They meet in an airport and Ted has just discovered that his wife is cheating on him, and he ends up like confessing this to Lily and saying how much he wishes that she was dead, and then Lily basically offers to do this for him. So I think this is a retelling of what's that book called? I can't remember what the book's called, but it's like a classic story where two strangers meet and then one of them agrees to like kill someone for the other person because there's nothing tying them together, and hopefully they'll get away with it. I just remember this being so fast paced. I don't remember a ton about it now. This is one that I might reread in the next few years because I'll have forgotten like most things about it. I remember loving this at the time, and when I saw it in the charity shop just waiting to be bought, I thought I'd pick it up. The next one is one that I really liked, but I think I gave it 4 out of 5. This is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This book is a very subtle dystopia book. It reads more like contemporary fiction, but it is set in a slightly skewed version of our own world. We're following this character called Kathy, who is I think she's like a nurse or a carer, and she's looking back on her childhood at this school and with her closest friends. It's a lot about love and friendship. Again, this is another that I'll probably reread one day just to get a bit more out of it, I think. It has such an underlying sadness to it, and it left me feeling very like melancholy and just a little bit down, but in a good way. And then the last one is actually one of my most recent favourites, and that was Watch Her Fall by Erin Kelly. I talked about this one fairly recently. This book is about a ballerina called Ava, and she's like the lead ballerina at her ballet school. Her dad owns it, but she soon starts to suspect that somebody is out to like get her and wants to replace her as the head ballerina. This book was fascinating. I really loved the ballet setting and how cutthroat it was, how intense it is. This book has so many different twists and turns, lots of different perspectives. There were so many times where I was left absolutely gobsmacked by what had just happened. I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it like a 4.5 because it took me quite a while to read it, so it didn't give me that like 5-star feeling, but it's definitely one of my new favourites, so again I had to own it. With the books that I decide to buy physically that I've read on my Kindle and stuff, it's when I feel like I'll one day reread them, or I will like recommend them to someone and want to have it there to like give to them. So that's why I buy the books that I've already read, but I'm pretty sure that these probably cost me like £3-4, so it's definitely worth it for me. Okay, next section of this video is all the books that I've read, is all the books that I've bought that I haven't read before, except for these two. These are the only 2 books that I've bought that I have read since I bought them, which is kind of bad actually. So the first one I have here is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I'm going to be talking about this one in my summer wrap-up video because I read this one quite recently, but this book is a very strange, whimsical fantasy book about this guy called Piranesi who lives in this big grand house, and it's kind of like a labyrinth. It's huge, it's filled with like water, and it's very mysterious. He basically spends his days exploring this house and documenting his findings. We're not sure why he's there, what this house is, and this whole story is him accidentally unraveling why he's there, who he is, what the real meaning of this house is, and I really love this book. It was so fascinating and engaging. I love how we kind of found everything out alongside Piranesi. He's just the sweetest character. He's one of my new favourites. I love the format of this book where it's told in like his diary entries, but we also get to see snippets of like academic articles and lists that he's written and things. And yeah, I just really loved it. So I will talk about it in a bit more depth in my summer wrap-up video, but this is the first one that I bought and have actually read. And then the next one that I've read is Severance by Lingam. I did talk about this one in my last wrap-up video, which was my April and May wrap-up, I think. This one was one that I bought in America. I really love the cover of this, and it's a floppy book, so I just love it. Again, really love this book. I think I gave it like a 4.5 star. We're following this character called Candice, who is a millennial worker in New York, and we get to see her background, her struggle with her identity, being someone who was born in China and then came over when she was about 10 years old. And then we also see this global virus hit, which is very similar to COVID-19, and we see how she deals with that and basically carries on working exactly as she would normally. And then we see her just after the virus when everything has gone very apocalyptic. This book was really interesting. There's a lot to talk about, it has a lot to say, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm glad that I own this one as well. And then this is a stack of books that I bought and have not yet read. So let's go through them. Maybe this will get me really excited to read these books, because I don't know why I buy books and I just leave them there. I just leave them on my shelf downstairs and I don't pick them up. I don't know why. We will start with this one, Animal by Lisa Taddeo, I think. This is one that I found in Tesco, I believe, and it was on like 2 for £8, so I got it quite cheap. So the back of this book says, Joan knows more than most. Oh my god, why is that so hard to say? Joan knows more than most of the price of pleasure, the horror of being a woman at the mercy of a man. Reeling from the public suicide of a former lover, she abandons her New York apartment and drives west for California in search of the one person who might help her unravel the brutal mystery of her past. I've heard a lot of good things about this author, and this cover's really pretty as well. She also wrote Three Women, which I was going to read, but I'd heard some like mixed reviews and I decided I probably wasn't going to read it. But this one sounds really interesting. It's always on those like TikToks about unhinged female characters, which is a very popular trope right now, I guess. Sounds like it's going to be quite dark, maybe quite feminist. It says it's funny. So yeah, sounds very interesting. The next book that I bought is The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagahara. This one was from Waterstones. I bought this because I read A Little Life and I really enjoyed it, which is actually there. So hopefully this can go next to it and look very pretty. I really like this edition as well. It's got this like trees and then the titles in trees as well, so it's very nice. But this book is set in the 1950s and we're following this young doctor who embarks on an expedition to a remote Micronesian island in search of a rumoured lost tribe. There he encounters a strange group of jungle dwellers who appear to have retained a form of immortality. This doctor uncovers their secret and returns to America, where he soon finds great success, but his discovery has come at a terrible cost, not only for the islanders but for the doctor himself. This sounds very good. I've heard that it is pretty dark, and stuff like tribes and anthropology really interests me, so hopefully this one will be really interesting. It sounds totally different to A Little Life, so that's also intriguing as well. And I think it'll be really interesting to see the moral issues with uncovering this tribe and probably bringing a lot of attention to them. Oh gosh, the writing is tiny. Oh, I was just gonna say how short of a book this is compared to A Little Life, but the writing is minuscule, so we'll see how that goes. It also looks like it has a lot of footnotes in there, so that's quite interesting. So yeah, I'm excited to read this eventually, and then I will hopefully read To Paradise, which is the newest one by Hanya Yanagahara, and hopefully I'll enjoy it as much as I liked A Little Life. The next book that I got is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is one that I've wanted to read for a long time, and again, I really like the cover of this book. I found it in London in a charity shop, so again got this one really cheap. So this book is another dystopia, and I'm just going to read the back to refresh my memory. This is a bit of a strange book where the memory police pick a certain object and then all of a sudden everyone forgets that that thing ever existed, but this appears to be a young novelist who doesn't forget. and obviously that sounds quite dangerous. It says that it echoes the themes of 1984, which I love. So again, this sounds really good. I feel like I'm going to say that about every one of these books. But this is another fairly short one, and I love a good dystopia. I feel like this one might be one of those like new classics, maybe like a new dystopian classic. So hopefully I will get to that one soon as well. Another book that I got in America when I was in Vegas is The Familiar Dark by Amy Engel. So again, we've got that amazing floppy book. Oh, they're just so cool, love them. Also, how nice is this cover? It's got like a trailer or a caravan type thing in the background. I bought this book because I read Amy Engel's The Roanoke Girls, and that one was very dark twisted, but I really enjoyed it, and this one sounds really good as well. So this book opens with a heartbreaking murder in a small town. Eve Taggart, desperate with grief over losing her daughter, sets out to uncover the truth about what happened. Eve is no stranger to the dark side of life, having been raised by a hard-edged mother whose lessons Eve tried not to pass on to her own daughter. Her quest for justice takes her from the seedy underbelly of town to the quiet woods, and most chillingly back to her mother's trailer for a final lesson. This sounds very gritty, very dark. Again, another short little book. This isn't even 250 pages. I found it at the airport, I think, in Atlanta on the way home. So got that there. The next book that I got is another one by Sarah Pinborough, and it is 13 minutes. Let me just remove that £1 sticker off. So this is another book that I got from a charity shop. I basically added a few Sarah Pinborough books to my TBR a while ago because of how much I loved Behind Her Eyes. But then I read Cross Her Heart and I hated that book. This is the other like backlist book that I want to read by her. It's a YA book, but it also says not suitable for younger readers. So I guess we'll see how dark that is. But it says Mean Girls for the Instagram age. Sometimes I just love a YA thriller, and I feel like Sarah Pinborough is really gonna push the boundaries between like what is okay for a YA book. But apparently it's about this girl who died for 13 minutes in the water, and she doesn't know why she died, she doesn't know how she got there, and it's her trying to find out what happened, I guess. This will just be a really fun, quick read. I'll hopefully read this one soon actually, because I love reading YA thrillers when it's summer. Maybe I'll read it like September time when we usually get a heat wave. So yeah, that's another one that I want to try by Sarah Pinborough. I have another thriller here. Again, got this one for £1 at a charity shop. This book is called The Split by Sharon Bolton. I've heard lots of good things about this book. It is about a woman called Felicity who fled England to a remote island, escaping her past and the man she once loved. But now Freddie has served time for murder and now he wants her back. So this sounds like a cat and mouse type thing, which is normally not really something that I like. I don't really love a cat and mouse situation, but I guess we'll see. There's probably going to be quite a lot of like twists and turns in this. The next few, I think I've bought all of them at either Asda or Tesco. This one here, The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker. How pretty is the colour of this book, by the way? Love it. Supermarkets in the UK are so good for finding cheap books. Also, The Works. If you live in England or the UK in general, I don't know. The Works has so many books in there at the minute. Granted that a lot of them are like very popular TikTok books. There isn't a lot of variety there, I don't think, but they had tons in there. There's a lot of places to get cheap books in the UK, I think. But yeah, this is one of them. That was from Asda, I think. This book is about a girl called Chrissy who I think has killed somebody. The first page talks about how she has killed somebody, and it's very descriptive and I love it. The first line is, "I killed a little boy today, held my hands around his throat, felt his blood pump hard across my thumbs." Oh god, gross. We start with that, and then 15 years later Julia is trying to mother her 5-year-old daughter Molly, but she's always worried about her parenting skills and terrified that the social services are going to take Molly away. That's when the phone calls begin, which Julia is too afraid to answer, because it's clear the caller knows the truth about what happened all those years ago. So I'm guessing that Chrissy has grown up and is now Julia. I love a book about someone who's killed someone as a child. I read Looking for JJ when I was a teenager and I loved that book. I also love books where people question their like parenting skills, and there's a lot of discussion about motherhood and about being a parent, so hopefully this one will be really up my street. The next book that I got is Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? I will now have every Sally Rooney book, do I? This is my third book. This is her third book, right? So this is a story about 4 people who are all young, but life is catching up with them. They desire each other, they delude each other, they worry about sex and friendship and the times they live in. Will they find a way to believe in a beautiful world? I loved Normal People, that got 5 out of 5. I really liked Conversations with Friends, I gave that a 4 out of 5. And I've heard mixed reviews about this one. I think it's a bit closer to Conversations with Friends than it is Normal People, but I really like her writing. I enjoy the young 20s lost in the world sort of situation, and seeing the relationships between people. There's not a ton of things that happen in Sally Rooney books, there's not a lot of plot, it is just people, but I've enjoyed her other 2 books, so I figured I would also give this one a go. And then 2 other books that I also got from the supermarkets and stuff were Not a Happy Family by Shari Lupina. I recently read The Couple Next Door, and I think I only gave that like a 3 out of 5, so I'm now a little bit apprehensive to read this one, but it still sounds pretty interesting. It's about a wealthy family where the mother and father are brutally murdered hours after a tense dinner with their 3 adult children. Each of the children is due a massive inheritance. It's basically this very toxic, messy family situation where we are guessing as to who ended up killing the parents, whether it was one of the children or whether it was someone else entirely. I do like a messy family dynamic. I'm just a little bit unsure now that I read The Couple Next Door because I didn't really love it. I just kind of liked it. I did get into it as it went on though, so hopefully this one will be that same fast-paced vibe that I can really get into. The next book that I got is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Obviously this book has been absolutely everywhere. I'm a little bit scared of this book because it is written by Colleen Hoover, who is traditionally a romance writer. I've read one of her books and I did like it, but the writing wasn't my favourite, but I did get very emotional about it and I did cry at the end of that book. That was It Ends With Us, but the writing was a little bit so I'm a bit worried about this one because I've read a lot of thrillers, I've got quite high standards now I guess, and I'm unsure that she's going to be able to pull this one out of the bag, but we'll see. I've heard lots of good things. This is about a writer who accepts the job of a lifetime to complete a series written by a best-selling author who is unable to finish the series. So she moves into their house ready to look at all the notes and start writing these books, but then she starts finding some very disturbing things and she decides to hide what she finds from the writer's husband, but then I think she starts to get feelings for the husband. She then wonders if she should tell the husband about what this woman's written because it will ruin their relationship and then she can be with him. So I feel like this is going to be a book about obsession. I am just a bit nervous about it. So let me know if you've read this before and if it's as good as other thrillers, I suppose. Maybe I've just got this prejudice about it because it's written by a romance author, but we'll see. The next book I have I also bought from Tesco I think, and it is All Her Fault by Andrea Mara. This is about a woman called Marissa who arrives at this address because she thinks that her son is having a play date there. But when she gets there, this woman who answers the door says, nope, your kid is not here. Your kid was never meant to be here. I don't know where they are. Then we're following this disappearance and it's also set in Dublin. This sounds like a very intense whodunit. It's probably going to be very emotional because this woman is missing her child. I saw that this on Goodreads has so many good reviews. It's got a really high average rating, so I'm really excited to read this. This is one that I will hopefully get to when I'm in the mood for a really fast-paced thriller, and I'm hoping it'll be very emotional as well because I love that combination in my books. This is the last one that I bought in an English charity shop, and this is Beartown by Frederick Backman. Again, this is a very popular book. This is about this town called Beartown. They're very into is it hockey or there's a sport and they're very into this sport. It doesn't actually say on the back. And then one of the star players is accused of rape and it's about how the town deal with that. I really enjoy books that focus on a rape accusation or a rape trial because I love delving into rape culture, and it also gets me really angry, so it makes me feel very involved in the book. But I've heard so many good things about this. It is pretty long. It's over, oh my god, it's almost 500 pages. Wow. I also saw a review on Instagram where she said that the sports bit is very heavy in the first bit of the book and it's quite hard to get into, so I'll definitely have to keep that in mind and just push through. I also love a small town book, so this sounds like it has a good combination of a lot of things that I like already, so yeah, excited to get to this one. And then this is the most recent book that I bought. I bought this one from a bookshop in Leiden in the Netherlands when I went for my friend's stag do. There was this bookshop, it was called Mayflower Bookshop, and it had a lot of secondhand books, but it was pretty expensive. It was a lot cheaper to buy things in the UK, but I did find this secondhand. But again, this was €7 for a secondhand book, which is about like £5 odd in the UK. So it's pretty expensive for a secondhand book, and it is a little bit bashed, so it has this like bit here, which I'm not really bothered about, and it has a lot of like where it's come off. So I mean, I'm not bothered by that, but I would expect to find this in the UK for like £1. But I do like buying things from different countries just because I have that like memory of it. I'm like, oh, I bought this one in Leiden. So yeah, that's why I bought this. I do really like the cover as well, so that also influenced me. And it's a floppy book, pretty much. I mean, not totally, but it's pretty floppy. So this book is Last Exit to Brooklyn by Hubert Selby Jr. Ooh, there's a hair in it. I fairly recently read Requiem for a Dream, which is also by this author, and I really loved that book. It was one of those classics that I actually enjoyed and understood. So on the back of this book it says, Last Exit to Brooklyn remains undiminished in its awesome power and magnitude as the novel that first showed us the fierce primal rage seething in America's cities. Selby brings out the dope addicts, hoodlums, prostitutes, workers and thieves brawling in the back alleys of Brooklyn. This explosive bestseller has come to be regarded as a classic of modern American writing. I opened this book to a random page in the bookshop, and it was one of the most visceral, graphic scenes I've read for a long time, and I was like, I need this. I need this book. I love reading things that are just a little bit shocking and a bit like, whoa, who wrote that? Who approved of that? I will get to this one soon, hopefully. And then the last book that I have to show you, oh my gosh. This is one that I actually won on Instagram. On this one competition, she just said like comment the book that you won or something like that. And she gifted me this one. So this is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. This is one that I'm probably unlikely to have bought myself because it is a non-fiction, but it is a thrilling account of our extraordinary history from insignificant apes to rulers of the world. Oh, and it's also got Barack Obama on the back. He said it was interesting and provocative, gives you a sense of perspective on how briefly we've been on this earth. That's quite upsetting. So this is probably going to give me a existential crisis. I did A-level history and I really enjoyed it, but I do miss learning about history, so every so often I do try and like get back into it, and I feel like this is going to really help with that because I love people, I love society, I did sociology at uni. Combine all those things and it would be like this book. I think I feel like this will be really interesting, but it is quite a thick boy. It is like 500 pages, has lots of like little diagrams and stuff, and I will probably annotate the shit out of this book, probably write notes, so it's one that I really want to like focus on rather than just reading it casually. But oh my god, I've been talking for so long, but that was the last book. That is all the books that I've basically acquired in the last roughly a year or so. Let me know if there's any that you've read before, which ones you think I'd really like and which ones I should prioritise. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!